Welcome back. I am so glad that you are here with me. Today, we are going to talk about how we were impacted by this past year and some of the ways that we can come out stronger. Come on this little journey with me as we attempt to make sense of the many feelings we've been going through and talk about some helpful tips to get our strength back. This pandemic has stolen so much from us. So I've entitled this episode, What in the Pandemic? It has stolen so much from us that most people probably don't realize it. This isolation and the pressures of us to do things that are not normal to us, and the compromises we've had to make, along with the interruption of our routine of life. Routines are important. They are important to the habits that we've worked towards in creating our lives as well. And then there are the various losses. If you do not find yourself discouraged these days, in fact, for the past year, I would say that's highly unusual. From experience, I know that some days it's just tough to get through them without tears or moments of sadness. I know from talking to people that most of them want the same things that I want, to simply live my life and enjoy the simple pleasures it has to offer. Some of us have been more affected than others, but we've all been affected in something in this time. If you find yourself sad, afraid, even lonely, that should be expected after all that we've had to endure this past year. Probably, like usual, it seems that not as many people are talking about these feelings, and you're probably wondering if you're supposed to feel as you do, confused at times about it as well. You may even be wondering because it may feel like that other people are not really talking about these things that you're questioning, and it may make it harder for you to want to speak up and want to say anything. Then we have those that it may seem as if they want to appear stronger than they probably are, and they don't want anyone else to know their thoughts, their feelings, and especially their fears. And that's all right too. But some of us, we need to know that what we're feeling is okay, and even normal, considering what we've been through. In fact, we have not experienced anything like this before, so everything should come as an uncertainty to us. So for those of us brave enough to admit it, let's talk. For others, simply listen and see if any of this hits home for you as well. We miss hugs and breathing fresh air. We oftentimes have those moments that we feel that sometimes we're hopeless, and we find it hard to pick up our dreams and envision them again. You may be like me and wonder how to continue my dreams now with this and that in the way. And some days, the tears just simply can't stop welling up in my eyes and streaming down my face. Sadness fills my heart, and it takes my breath. Loneliness sets in. Not seeing smiles, and even seeing people speak. I miss being around people. I miss the routine I once had. We miss real conversations. I heard a little 10-year-old boy the other day talk about how he saw his teacher in the store, and she didn't recognize him. He said it was because she had never seen his full face. He knew that. He talked about how he felt such anxiety for various reasons. Another little girl, she was showing her frustration of how she had to go through this school year, and it truly was heard in her voice. Some of the country went back to school this year, while others did not. Like, for example, our boys went back to school this year, but they had to wear the mask. At first, they just missed being in school when our world came to a sudden standstill. By the time fall rolled around, they were ready and happy to go back to school. But wearing masks made that little bit of normal of going back to school feel awkward and uncomfortable, and it all got tiring. They had to carry enough water with them because they were not allowed to use the water fountains. As I waited after school for our boys to get out, I watched kids walked loaded down with their backpacks, their lunch boxes, and huge water containers while having to wear masks and attempt to breathe. Several of them appeared to be in full-blown exhaustion mode. Emotionally, they have struggled with all of it and have been ready for some time to be done with going to school. There has been so much controversy. We have not really seen it before or experienced like it's now. That has just also made tensions rise for many and caused that unsettled feeling. It's been more difficult than people realize, and since we do not have anything to gauge it by, this year we're still lost and confused about what's going on inside of us. Things are not as we know it. Now, some of our boys were in weekly counseling sessions, and I am so thankful for that. But not everyone can do this as much as they may need it. But it is clear it has been hard on them. It has been hard on kids. I want to say this out loud for you. You, of all ages, of all workplaces, schools, homes, regardless of what you do in this world. But for you to hear this, you have a right to all of your feelings. It is okay to feel what you're feeling, even if you don't understand it. There is nothing wrong with you. Sometimes those feelings do not even make sense, but that's okay too. You have a right to even be mad because for most of us, our lives have been turned upside down and we had absolutely nothing to do with that. It's not your fault. Do you hear me? It's not your fault. It has been a long season of grieving, of mourning our many losses. We have been grieving all the many losses. There has been a high level of suicides being reported, and then there are those not being reported as so. People are grieving. They're grieving the losses of their homes and their businesses, the things that they have worked hard for. Some are grieving their dreams that have been shattered. Some have lost their life savings, their future, and they wonder, how do I pick up and go from here? It wasn't supposed to be like this. And you were not the one to destroy it. It is not your fault. We have lost loved ones, jobs, lifestyles, and many relationships and marriages and families have been damaged, and others have been destroyed. Our health has been compromised in many ways, and people have feared going to the hospital or the doctor, so they don't. And their issues become worse, and some have even died because they didn't get in. We've lost insurance plans, and without jobs, we too don't get seen. Also, insurances are going up. In fact, for my husband, it was 25% it went up. Why? When they were getting paid all this money for Corona. Come on. It doesn't make sense. It has divided a world in beliefs. Some people have suffered great traumas. The waiting and hoping for things to get better. It has been a very trying time on our patience. And we're tired. We're tired in so many ways. No one has in some way not been affected. Even if you've come out of this past year rather unscathed, know that your fellow man and woman, your neighbor, your friend, your family member hasn't. And they need you. Someone always needs you, and you need other good people as well in your lives. Know that. They struggle, And the struggle is real, people. Even if you're not really struggling, there is always someone else who is, and it isn't easy by no means. But we cannot sit idly by. We must act. We must sow a seed to meet a need. One of the meanings of this saying is that whenever we help someone else, in return, it helps us. We feel better when we accomplish something, even if it is for someone else. It is good medicine. This has definitely been a time of not knowing exactly how to steer the course of unchartered waters. But if it's from your heart, I think that you're headed in the right direction. As I open up and share my heart with you about my story of this year, I am certain plenty of you can identify with me here in one way or another. I am also certain that many of you have lost a lot more, and you've had a lot more happen in your life than mine, and I am truly sorry for your losses. Even though I may not even know your name, I am praying for you each and every day. Some of you may even be saying to yourselves, I am tired of this battle, Lord. I am so tired of hearing the news. I admit to you, it's been the most difficult year of my life. And while planning this particular podcast, I found myself experiencing a lot of emotion. I didn't lose anyone to this virus, but in this time I have lost people I love, most especially my father, who passed away just as this pandemic hit. Our family has lost people through this year that didn't even die, and it doesn't make sense, and it isn't right. So much happening in such a short time can wear on us emotionally and physically and even spiritually. Because of this pandemic, some of us have lost a job or more jobs in our families. Some people had to learn to work from home, and while that's good and it has its good points, it also has its downsides too, like learning new ways to communicate and how to go to work while still being at home. And the loss of personal contact. Now, I lost a job that I loved, and I was really good at it, and I invested myself in it a long time. And to people like me, that really matters, being at a job for a long period of time. I mean, that's my generation. That's how I was raised. I have my dad's work ethics, and I'm always looking for ways to improve. And I take ownership in what I do. So all of it was gone. It broke my heart. For it wasn't just my job and all the work that I put in that has gone. It was also my benefits, along with my lifestyle. You see, I had a lifestyle of waking up and sharing and working my entire day alongside my husband. And then there's all those people I shared my days with. Even those that didn't work with us in the same place, they were like our vendors. And our days interacted with one another. And I called all of these people my work family. These are people that I actually spend more time with than I did my own family, because that's what we do when we go to work. We spend more time at work than we get to at home. And so I miss those people. You know, I've raised my children, and it's like, you know, my life was just turned upside down. And so I did feel lost because I had lost my daily pace in this world, my daily routine. I felt like I belonged somewhere in seeing my work family, and so that was all gone. Some of you totally understand this. So you see, it was an entire lifestyle change for me, and it hit hard, especially after losing my dad, one of my greatest supporters in life, one of my greatest encouragers, cheerleaders. It added to my loss list of traumas impacting my life. Some of you lost a great deal of money, and you understand how stressful that can be. And with my job loss and the pay cut my husband had to take, we lost nearly half of our income. And while unemployment may work for some, it has its issues, and it doesn't always come through for every person. And so there can be absolutely no income coming in. And those stimulus checks, well, in comparison to a regular income, this is not enough. and it's not as frequent as most people need to stay afloat. And those of you who've had to turn to unemployment, you know just how long that wait can be. It was my first experience with such things. Initially, it was quick and easy, but suddenly it stopped, and I've never been given an explanation as to why. I am still waiting. Waiting on the phone, waiting for someone to answer, only hours later to be hung up on. Or have someone finally answer and tell you that you need to be transferred in the process. Only to be hung up on. Only to have to start all over again. Of course, in the beginning months, they had to answer an all-time high of calls from applicants. But I mailed in, faxed in, emailed in, and when I was told that they'll return my call, and I answered every unknown call for weeks, but it's never them, and they don't respond, and I began to feel as if they don't intend on helping me, or even taking the time to give me an explanation as to why. I sit there, and at the end of yet another long day of waiting, I cry. After all, everything else feels like it's against me. Can you relate? Losing a loved one this past year, it was very difficult, wasn't it? When hospice came in for my dad, and since traveling was in question, we had to say our final goodbyes to him on the phone. Of course, he couldn't speak, but my sister told me that he had tears. He could hear us. How do you hang up the phone? How do you make that decision that it's time to hang up the phone, knowing it'll be the last time? It's your moment to say all that you want to say, all that you can think to say. But at what point do you hang up the phone, knowing that he's still there? But you know what? I am thankful that I got that moment, because I know there are many people who didn't. And I am so sorry to you for that. We had a simple memorial for him. It was months later, when things kind of seemed like maybe it might be a good time, but we felt like the longer we waited, there was just no closure. I mean, this was just strange and odd to lose a loved one like this and not have like a service and be able to just get together and all of that. It just seemed strange. So I felt like we had to have closure, and some of us didn't even realize just how much we needed that then, that prolonging it just made it worse. So we made it about just immediate family. And you know what? Even at that, not everyone came. It was definitely a different experience than we've ever known. People they were living in such fear, and they didn't know what to do. I mean, this was a year ago now. And we only had one person. Well, for me, I only had one person that brought my family dinner. I only had one person that came to my house. I had one person send me flowers. I don't remember phone calls or cards. I just remember feeling how wrong it all seemed. With social media, people just get on and they tell you, it's like it's really kind of like simple, and they'll get on and send you a message or comment on your obituary that you posted on your Facebook. So all of it was just different. And other than social media, we didn't have much interaction from people after such a major loss in our family. See what the pandemic did to us? It was totally a different experience than we've ever imagined when losing someone so dear to us, so important to us, so close to us. Grief is different. It's different to different people. You cannot know what to expect. Not every loss feels the exact same. It's important to note that not only are we affected in our emotions, but it also affects our health, how our bodies respond. I found myself very isolated, lonely, and sad, grieving so much loss, so much at once, so much that it made the process linger with more intensity and more time than I felt like it should have for me. How about you? How do you feel about that? Did you feel the similar things that I did? I consider myself a healthy person, and I'm intentional with my health, but I suddenly became so ill. Being in full-blown pandemic mode for our world is when I discovered how a person could easily die just waiting to have a virtual appointment with my doctor. The wait was horrible, and I'm not talking days. I'm talking more like 6 to 8 weeks to see my doctor over the phone. I wasn't sure that I would even make it. Doctors had a hard time trying to figure out what was wrong with me until they realized that these symptoms pointed towards those of PTSD, which was wreaking havoc on my health. It was like recognizing that the enemy was attacking me in all things. I now recognize the signs, and I know what to do to try to eliminate them, to protect my health and protect myself. But regardless of when it's triggered, it is still there. A strong person I am, but this has been hard, so much loss in a short time, a time that hasn't seemed to want to end. Hard times, they fell upon our family. Each one of us at one point or another, for one reason or another, we're beginning to feel broken and lost. Together, we're surviving. My husband and I, we went from the 2 of us to the 7 of us in our household. So I cannot imagine not having a relationship with Jesus to get us through. I am blessed and I am thankful because despite it all, God has had his hand upon us. Realizing when I wake up, the first thing that I need to do each day is roll out of bed and onto my knees, acknowledging him, thanking him for loving me, for being there for me and my family, thanking him for all that he's done for me, is doing for me, and will do for me and my family. You know, when someone's appreciative towards me, it makes me want to do more for them. And I think God feels the same way. If you do not have a relationship with God, you can begin talking to him. He wants to hear from you. Others who do, don't forget who God is and the power that he has. Are you putting your trust more in other things and other people besides God? This year, this pandemic, it hasn't been God's will for us, and it is extremely important to note that it is God's will for us to have a long and prosperous life. Ask yourself, do you push the power of believing in something else more than you do the power of Christ? The spirit of fear these days seems to be so strong. You must trust in the power of God. The word tells us in Psalms 91:1 that he who dwells in the secret place shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. If he wasn't talking about what's going on in our world today this past year, then what was he talking about? We need to trust the power of God, not man. The agenda of this world today is to put your trust in man, not in God. Think about it. Which one is infallible? The more you know God, the more you invest in the time you decide to spend with him, the more you need him. God needs to hear our prayers. Not only that, our prayers are powerful. Not only do we feel encouraged to hear the positive words of our decrees and declarations that we say, and God's promising scriptures, this encourages the Lord as well. It's hard to hear God when you don't invest the time, but it's also hard to hear with so much noise of others' input around us. Spending time with the Lord is so much more beneficial and powerful than turning on the news. God's in control, and with your prayers, He is the only one who can change anything anyhow. You feel so much better just welcoming Him there with you and being in the presence of God. I listen to music, and I follow certain believers who make me smile, laugh, and encourage me, even just a little bit every day, throughout the day. Aside from God, it has been their motivation and daily input that has been there for me. It has been years since this came out, but I could not wait until the movie War Room came out on the big screen. It is one that I now own, and I watch it from time to time. I have had a deep desire for this kind of prayer life that one of the main characters, Miss Claire, has in this movie. She has a prayer closet where she spends time with the Lord, and this is her so-called war room where she fights her battles from in prayer. The gentleman who was viewing her empty house that was for sale, he walked into her closet and he felt the power there. He said that it was if the prayers were baked into the walls. It was the convincing factor that determined his decision to buy that house. So this past fall, I worked on my own closet, and I created my own war room of prayer as well. I love this place, and in the next episode, I will share my prayer closet / war room, where I will encourage you to do the same thing, because God's army, it's always recruiting, and we need more and more prayer soldiers. Prayer is the most powerful weapon, and so is making the time to use it. I created this space for myself to go to and hide away and spend time with the Lord. It has truly helped me to come through this really tough, long season in my life. I feel the power and the strength of my prayers by utilizing my weapons of warfare. For me, my prayer closet is also a place to read, write in my prayer journal and pray over my prayers that I have posted on one of the walls, a place to learn and to listen. It is my own personal space where my family cannot find me. They go and they start looking for me there. And one of the things that's kind of funny is they'll text me to find out if, where I am or if I'm in the closet, because they don't want to interrupt me. So they text me instead. It's my place to go to talk to God and to talk to you all who read my blog and listen to me speak. I go there to cry, to plead, to thank God, and to talk to Him about everything good, bad, and ugly. I talk to Him about everything that I want back that enemy has stolen from me. Time. Time is something that we're never going to get back. So as we move forward, we must decide how to spend it. And I sure do not want to spend it continuing to be filled with all these feelings and emotions that I've endured this past year. What about you? Where do you want to go from here? We must act on those life-giving thoughts we think and those words we speak. We have heard that actions speak louder than words. So God wants us to act on those words because those actions activate the faith that He wants to see in us so that those mountains of trouble will be moved. Agree with me for yourself as well whenever I say, I am tired of mourning. I want to be stronger, braver, and more than a conqueror. To rise up, to be fearless and not back down. Stand for what you know is right and good and honor your God. Make the changes happen through the use of your prayers. I found my prayer closet to be my healing place. Also, another healing place for me is my garden, where my son had encouraged me to begin a garden this year. I'm also using a lot of containers and not actually planting directly into the ground. So with that, I encourage you that anyone can start this kind of thing, regardless of where you live, or you find other things to do that you enjoy to invest yourself in. Gardening and being outdoors makes me feel so good, so calm, and I'm excited to come and see what I'm tending to each day. It's also a good teaching tool for my grandsons. I am so much happier now that summer's here. I love sunshine and color. I love having my pets around me when I work outdoors too. We all love this time. My daddy loved things like this too. He was a farmer and a gardener, and I know that it would make him happy seeing me happier and enjoying these kinds of things that he enjoyed as well. Those we lost, they want us to be happy. He's my daddy, and he wants this for me. It's life's simple pleasures. I think my green thumb has even become a little bit greener, meaning that I just may have a little bit more favor, a little bit more luck in having a beautiful garden since my daddy is now living in heaven. The farmer may have passed down his talent to his children. Do you realize that your peace, it comes from your heart, not your head? You see, my peace, it's relational. It's my relationship with God. Peace is not due to my circumstances. It's not circumstantial. No matter what, I should feel peace as I invest myself and hide myself in God. Then all things are made new. I ask, what is it that needs to change in me to look more like heaven, to look more like Jesus? I ask God to help me to become more aware of His presence so that I may experience the glory of His goodness. I have learned about being a game changer. Choosing Jesus is the game that changes everything because my mindset and my attitude changes with knowing Him and His ways. God said that what happened to me was not my breaking, it was my making. Don't let it be your breaking either. And when I say that I know that no matter what happens in my life, God is the Lord of my life. He is the change. I know because I have learned that no one can take anything from me unless He says so and has a reason for doing so. What I realize is God needed me to be where I am so I could be a prayer warrior and so I could be here for my family in their great time of need. God says that I needed a break from the world for a while to heal and to come up stronger. And only He knows. Only He knows that He could be saving me from something far worse. He could have been doing the same thing for you. To be perfectly honest with you, this podcast, it's been really hard for me to produce. Just going through the feelings and looking over this entire past year, it just made it really hard for me to just put the words together and to admit it, to show my vulnerability in all the things that have hurt me. And I just felt like it had to be said. And I got sick in the process. I did my first recording of my podcast, and then the second one I got sick, and I know it was the old devil not wanting me to get this out there to you, not wanting me to share with you. But that's my intention with podcast, with my writings and all, is just to be honest with you, to be real with you, and to share my heart. I've always said, even as a child, like I want to share my heart with people. I want to share my writings. I want to speak to people and let them know that this is the real me. This is the real deal. And life is hard. And I'm not going to cry about it and all, but, I want to be honest. And so here we are. My podcast has went longer than I wanted it to, but I felt like I had to say everything I needed to say. So on ending this, I want you to know that God tells us there is a time and a season for all things. He knew the timing of my birth, of your birth. And crazy and frustrating, scary and unknown as this time has been, he says that we were created for a time such as this. My encouraging words to you today is that because he said that, he is saying that you do have what it takes to move forward, of course, with his help. So reach out to him and talk to him about all of it. It doesn't matter. Good, bad, ugly. It doesn't matter if you're so mad you're going to cuss. He doesn't care about the details of that. He only wants a relationship with you. That's important to him. So just start talking to him, even just a little bit at a time. He is saying that he meant you, yes, you and me, to be here and now in this world. It is our time. I'm calling upon all of you to start praying more, to be prayer warriors, even if you don't think you are. Just start talking to God, because what it is all about is having a relationship to him. Talk to him like you would your sister, your brother, your friend, me, whoever. Just start talking to him. We need to be praying prayers such as, Father, I'm praying for the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown, in my life, in everyone else's lives, in our world, in our community, in our nation. We need more people to be encouraging and praying. I do want you to share with me your stories of how you're getting through this time, how you're recovering, or how you're struggling to recover. I want you to email me, diana@dianahudgins.com. And I want you to know that I am so thankful for you. And I'm thankful that you came and you decided to come and spend some of your time listening to me. Until next time,